This is ridiculous. Hey, okay, art teachers and hats, episode 5, as we can see by the sign, and oh my God. Who do we have here? Is it? Oh, it's not Kylo Ren. It's Mr. Denner.
Gotcha.
Oh,
Here, let me flip it around for you. There.
it looks like
Now
a
I'm wearing a dark helmet.
German World War II helmet. So obviously you have a fun hat on this week. What did you pick?
So yeah, my brother-in-law Jack got my son this cool Kylo Ren mask for Christmas one year, and I was jealous of it, so I had to try it on for myself, and I figured that'd be a great hat. Still
Got
works
your
as a hat,
son.
right?
You mean
Yeah.
your son had on for 2 minutes and then you
I
kept
got
it?
it for my son, and it lasted in his room for a couple of minutes, and then I was like, you know what? I got a really good spot for that. Pretty sweet. How about yours? I like the lightning bolt on the side. That's pretty cool.
Where is it? Oh yeah. So we were in Montreal. 5 of us went up to celebrate our 40th birthdays. Oh God, 4 years ago. And it was pouring out and we were walking around. I had a raincoat, but I didn't have a hat on. And it was just, in the rain, you get gross. We stopped in this cool store and it had all this neat, like retro stuff. And this hat fit great. I was like, fine, perfect. I'll buy the hat. And all I knew it was airplane engine manufacturer from like 1920. That's all I knew. I get home and I research it, kind of find out it started in Rochester.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it started in Rochester and they went into business in 1932 and then it got sold and they still exist today.
That's cool.
So I thought it was a Canadian thing because I bought it in Canada. Come to find out I buy the only hat that was a company manufactured in Rochester. So
That's pretty sweet.
yeah, it was kind of
It's
cool.
funny how those connections get made too.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
was
small
weird.
world.
All right, so what do we got today? What are we doing?
Today we wanted to talk a little bit about the concept of cheating that came up in our last episode.
Ooh, like biology class, leaning over and seeing what your neighbor put for answer number 3.
Yeah, or
Is that
taking
cheating?
the notes and putting them underneath the brim of your hat. There's a little tie to what we do here too.
My
So yeah,
favorite was I was in an art history class my freshman year, and it was a tough class. I worked my butt off for this class, and this guy next to me was the star running back for the football team, and I saw him twice in class. The final exam, I'm like, I studied. All of a sudden, he has this big winter coat on. He pulls out this big sheet of paper and he's like, sets it down and starts copying stuff. I'm like, dude.
where did that come from?
Yeah. I'm like, what, like 3 sheets? I mean, you have no, like, you're not even trying to be like James Bond about it. You just have this big sheet of paper. Here I am studying my backside off, remembering who Ramses V was. And this guy here is just reading off a sheet of paper. So not that kind of cheating, right?
Right, not that kind of cheating, but
Okay.
when we make art, especially from a drawing and painting perspective, there's always that fear of cheating. But there's this stigma that when you draw something, it needs to be 100% from the imagination, from the mind, from this arduous process.
So I think let me back up and go with our level 1 of cheating,
Yep.
which is I ask the students to go draw an apple. They find a drawing of an apple and draw that drawing.
Yep.
That's like level 1. That's what drives me bananas all the time. I
like
want you to find an image of an apple, use your brain, translate, do a drawing of the apple. So that's like level 1. Like that's like just taking something that's been produced and reproducing it line for line, color for color, whatever. That drives me nuts.
Yeah. I like how you brought the bananas in there too. That was a really nice.
The apples, bananas, right? Yeah.
I mean, come on. That was too good. I want to jump all over that.
And I'm in yellow. Look at me. Look at me.
And you're in yellow. So the first question I pose then, when all of that comes to fruition, again, a little fruity there.
I see what puns we're going to use today.
I'm trying to get as much. When is it art and when is it art education? Because I think that is part of the argument based on what we do for a living. You and I are both art educators. Does everything our students produce have to be a work of art?
Well, if you're going to produce it for a show, for a lesson, for a t-shirt, for something, it has to be unique. Now, if you're practicing, so when I bought my iPad, I was learning how to draw on here.
Hmm.
And I went to YouTube. I found this guy. I actually bought his brushes. I spent $5 for his brushes, and I drew this cute little dinosaur dude.
It's
Now,
adorable.
it looks like my style anyway, something I would do, but line for line, I copied this guy's tutorial. I learned, I art educated.
Yep.
Now, if I go and put this on a coffee mug and sell it at a shop down the street, now I have an issue.
Plagiarism. Yep. That's
Plagiarism.
plagiarism.
Yeah.
Yep.
So did I learn? Yes. Is it my art? No.
We have to learn as artists to know the difference. And we have to learn also as art students how to appropriate the different things that we do. There's a certain level of guilt that comes with people and tracing, for one. So if I have students do a visual aid type thing, like I have this thing I call the transparency trick, where you can draw your contour lines on top of a transparency,
Best trick ever.
hover it over top of your drawing to check your work. And some people refuse to do it because they think it's cheating. If I go to basic math and I solve a problem using division, the easiest way to check my work is to multiply my solution, right? So it's, to me, it's a form of checking your work. But to win over some of those students who think it's cheating is very difficult to do,
Well,
because
if
it's ingrained in their head that any type of aid that you use to make your drawings better is cheating.
so I think if you like you use a lot of your own reference images for your work.
Yes.
So I remember during your really cool one with your glowing the kiss one.
Hmm.
I remember being in the paper room and you had like hot lamps in your hand and I'm taking
Yeah.
pictures as fast as we can in the dark room. You directed those images. I took them. You used them. You edited them, tweaked them, Photoshop, put it together. Then you traced those. It's still your work.
Right.
Like
Right.
so that's I don't have an issue with that. You're using the tools intelligently, using your
Yeah.
melon. See what I did there?
Oh, big time.
Using your melon, you still created art. That's fine. And then you're just checking your work. You've already laid the groundwork. You sketched it. Now you're just kind of
Absolutely.
the transparency and checking it. You're not creating it that way.
There's another
Unlike
there too.
camera obscura.
Actually that's a pretty good segue. I'll let you run with that.
So camera obscura, I don't even know like the time frame of it. It's just an old, 15th, 16th century. I don't know. All right. So camera obscura, there's a ton of different ways you can do it. But basically, figure stands here, goes through pinhole, gets repeated on this side, you copy it from that side.
And with
And,
it, you get the upside down and backwards version of the image too. So you have to
correct.
work with that. Yep.
So a lot of people argue that Da Vinci used one, Rembrandt used one, the big names used them all the time.
Vermeer.
Is that copying? Is that art?
And then that's another major argument to have. You know, before we were doing this recording, we were talking a little bit about that. There definitely is some art involved in the compositional development and the conceptual development. So we're trying to figure out what the idea is, what's the story we're trying to tell. The arrangement of objects, the choices of textures and colors, all of that are still art making decisions that rest on the artist.
So they put the model in a specific uniform outfit.
Yep.
You had them stand a specific way. You lit them. You did this. You put objects in the scene. You art directed the scene, and then you happen to paint it. So my thought was too, these artists back in the 15th, 16th century, a lot of them were creating art for a client, if you will. For me, I'm not going to sit there and be creative and flit around and, I'm going to get in, I'm going to get it done, I'm going to get paid, move on to the next one.
Yep.
And I think they're doing the same thing. Like they're just cutting corners to get paid. Now, are they talented draftsmen? Are they talented, color theorists? Can they mix paint? Oh God, yeah.
Yes, most definitely. Yes.
So they're still artists. Could you put them in front of a model and have them draw a model from life? Oh God, yeah. If I'm making money on a client, man, I want to get in and get out as fast as I can, and this is a way to do it.
I think when it's commercial, there should be no shame in it, simply because of what you said. The whole goal of commercial art is to try and make a buck off of your work, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you'd be bananas if you tried to draw everything from scratch all the time. But having that skill and being able to do it is definitely super important to develop.
So now when they developed a skill, they worked underneath master artists. They were apprentices. They were, practicing drawing from plaster casts. They were drawing models. They went through the ranks.
When it comes to people who understand art and have viewed a lot of art in their lifetime, you can usually tell a tracing over an actual drawing as well.
Right.
Tracings tend to come out a lot more stiff. life gets kind of zapped out of the artwork, where when people draw it, they also interpret it. And that interpretation, I think, is really important. If we were to go back to my portrait with the kiss makeup, there were components that I definitely looked at and used tricks like the transparency trick to work with. But in the end, the authentic drawing still comes through. You know, even if I used little bits of guides in that particular work, ultimately the hours and hours and hours of rendering and all of the adjustments made, the real drawing happens while you're making the work.
Well, and you did that. Like that's, I mean,
Right. And all of that process becomes important. But if I'm doing a pet portrait for somebody, that's when I would resort to using quick tracing devices, because the last thing you want to get is that it didn't look like their dog. But
well,
then,
that's like, those lollipop ones I did. I'm like, okay, I'm doing these for free. I'm donating my time to help out Lollipop Farm. They made like $7,000 on that, by the way.
that's awesome.
Where people sent in a picture of their dog or cat or parrot or whatever, and then had artists draw it. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to spend 3 hours drawing this and had 5 of them to do. Like I could, I have time because where else are we going?
Right.
The parts I wanted to get right, I traced. Like I need to get those eyes right. I need to get that nose in the exact spot so it looks like Fluffy. Otherwise, they're going to be like, who the heck is this? This isn't my dog. But the rest of it, I took liberties with. I would do this and blend this and push this. And, you know, that was my artistic flair. That made it mine. But, you know, my God, I better make sure Milo's face looks right. Otherwise, Milo's owner is going to be really upset.
We can talk a little bit about the trained artist versus the art student. If an unskilled artist is tracing, again, you can see it because they rely on the tracing to sell the
And
image.
it's like traced.
If you use visual aids to help your work along, you're still going to make your marks. You're still going to render it in your style. You're still going to render it with your media. And in the end, you're still going to have your artist stamp. But there will definitely be people that vehemently disagree with us here. And
Oh,
I
that's fine.
welcome that. And I think that that becomes an interesting argument to talk about too. Let's talk a little bit about Vermeer, because he's one of the most treasured painters of the Renaissance era and post-Renaissance era, and he's extremely well known for his painting of the girl with the pearl earring.
Earring. There she is.
Scarlett Johansson, swoon over her for a little bit, but that movie, you know, there's a movie made about that painting. He's using the camera obscura to capture that painting. Does that take away from the beauty of that painting for you?
Well, it's not one of my favorites. Like I like his other work. I love The Milkmaid. I
Yes.
think is really great.
Love that one.
I think I've seen this. Haven't we seen this in person? Isn't this in? I want to say it's somewhere. Isn't it Musée? Oh no, it's in Amsterdam. We were gonna see it.
Gonna see it.
So it's not my favorite piece on the planet. It is beautiful. It's well done. The colors are great. Like I get it. So does it alter my view of the painting because he used camera obscura? A little.
Yeah.
A little. I'd rather know that these famous artists, line for line, brushstroke for brushstroke, created it.
And that's
I don't
hard.
know. It's you can see me him and Han over, so it is hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think it comes down to the human's innate desire to want to believe in magic. Think about any awesome magic trick that you've ever seen. Chris Angel, Penn and Teller, David Copperfield, you name it. Once you find out how they did it, it ruins the illusion.
Yeah, it's
And
like one of my favorites is David Blaine. He long his card tricks and stuff.
yeah,
And
amazing.
he took a pack of cards. A cop had picked out a card, and he threw it against a window. And his card he picked was stuck on the cafe on the other side. And I'm like I don't care how he did it. It was just really cool. Like
Yeah, and
I
that
don't care if someone was in there and went oop and put it on the wall real quick. I don't care. It was just really cool.
yeah,
So yeah, I
that
don't want
awe
to know.
that awe gives us an adrenaline rush. Do we want to spend our lives taking that rush away by trying to decode it, or sometimes do we want to just accept it for what it is?
Right.
Do we want to spend time trying to say, hey, this is a really great painting, but, or do we want to appreciate it, love it, and take that as our takeaway?
So I guess and then you brought up Tim's Vermeer. So I'll bring up
Yeah.
Tim's Vermeer. So this is Tim and his Vermeer. So if you want to explain real quick how that happened.
Tim is an engineer who decided he wanted to take on the project to learn how to paint. and he had heard about the camera obscura, and so he started by practicing with the camera obscura and learning how to do some paintings, and he ended up painting really, really well.
Well, he
Completely.
he created the whole scene first, correct? Like a physical 3D realm.
Yeah, so before he did that, though, he did learn how to paint using the camera obscura.
I
He
can see,
practiced
and there's one in here.
portraiture and things like that.
Yeah.
And his mission was to recreate a Vermeer. So the act of the recreation was really where I saw the art of his process. He recreated the entire interior. He recreated the lighting. He recreated the costumes. He recreated the flooring, the tiling, you name it. And he did it with the highest level of authenticity that he could. He even recreated the paints. He mixed the pigments using the same materials that Vermeer had access to, because he wanted to try and create something that was so authentically like a Vermeer that you almost couldn't tell the difference. And he spent over 3 years doing the painting, and the result was absolutely incredible.
Okay, so is that art?
And is that art? It's a hard sell. My
As-
argument, the painting itself to me is not the art. It's the act of building the painting
Well,
that's the art.
he practiced with camera obscura. He did learn to paint. He learned how to mix paint. He learned how to create colors. So he art educated, if you will.
Sure.
And then he had to research. He built the entire thing. Like it's a full set. I mean, it looks like a full scale set right
It's a
here.
full scale set. Yeah.
And then he painted it. It's funny. I don't know where to stand, because if I just said Vermeer's painting the girl with the pearl ring isn't art, or if I say his isn't, he did the same way.
Yeah. And the other question is it plagiarism because he's copying a Vermeer?
It's a little different, but it's okay. That's
And
a
that
little
kind of
different.
brings
Okay,
us to that next realm of art cheating that we kind of touched upon in our previous episode, and the Jeff Koons of it all.
yeah.
Do you even have to touch the work for it to be authentically yours? Now, there's a big, big debate ready to be opened there.
So Jeff Koons is known for those shiny metal-looking balloon dogs. Part that I'm stuck with though is so here's Mr. Koons and his little shiny dogs.
And they're
But the
fun.
part I think they're great. They're really cool. You can make them into little sculptures. You can make them into necklaces. Like people, whatever. They're mass produced. It's fantastic. But these pieces here, where he takes his shiny things and puts them in, I don't know, Renaissance-esque pieces, are actually created by students.
Yep.
And right before we started talking, I was reading a quick article about a student who was his assistant. There was like 20 of them for like 2 years. He created this painting of a cracked egg, and then it fell off the wall. And someone who caught it happened to have cadmium yellow paint on her hands and got paint all over the canvas and ruined it. And the kid had to start all over again, and he quit. And the painting ended up selling for $500,000. Jeff Koons never touched it.
Yep. So where does that leave you? I would ask our audience. I would ask a lot of self-reflection out of
Ooh,
the
comment
conversation.
below what you think.
Comment below, yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll get some
Let us know what
comments.
you think.
Yeah.
Because again, there's that moment of awe. If you've ever seen a Jeff Koons in person, to be there and see how perfectly manufactured it is, to get caught up in the sheen and shine of it all, and the way that you interact with his sculptures. Do you still like them? Well, I do like them from a
But
public
what,
setting.
okay, what about his paintings though? I just showed you a picture of people making his paintings. He's standing with his hands on his hips, like, look what I made. Are those his paintings?
It really depends on how you look at it.
No,
And
they are not his paintings. Those are
yeah,
not his paintings.
they're not his paintings in terms of his touch. They are his paintings in terms of his direction. But what is that fine line? From my own personal perspective, I don't value it that much, because I've always been big on technique and building technical skill and foundational things. In my artwork, I'm always about capturing a certain sense of believability from the references, and just from your knowledge of things like anatomy and form and
Yeah,
things
but
like
on a gallery wall, Dave Denner's color pencil drawing, Dave Denner color pencil 2016, whatever, and a little blurb about you.
that. Yep.
You did it.
Yep.
Next to you is a Jeff Koons. Jeff Koons, oil on canvas, 2016, a little blurb about Jeff Koons. But, Steve and Sally here, they painted it.
Yeah.
They don't get any. In fact, I think they're working for free.
They might be, yeah.
I
They
think
might
what I
be
read.
part
I
of
have to go research it real quick. That would make me
the heck of
furious.
a resume builder, though.
What? No
I worked
way.
for
I
Jeff Koons.
I painted Jeff Koons. See this piece I painted that's in the MoMA? Oh no, I'd be furious.
I look at it as a vanity type purchase too. So his gigantic sculptures, the super large ones that are the size of buildings, those sell for about $500 million, give or take, and they cost nearly 300 million to make because of the manufacturing process, and everything about a Jeff Koons sculpture has to be perfect. So the person who purchases it and the people who appreciate it, and even Jeff Koons himself, I feel like it's all a big gigantic vanity type purchase. It's like buying a Ferrari. It's still going to get you to the grocery store and back, but you're going to look really awesome doing it, and
You
people are
get there in
going
a
to
hurry too.
know that you spent money because it has that Ferrari label on it. So when you throw the name Jeff Koons on these paintings and you throw the name Jeff Koons with the sculpture, is that your Ferrari label? I don't know.
Yeah, and I know he makes little ones too. You can get like little ones for like $10,000.
Yeah.
You can put it in your entryway. I don't have an entryway, but if I did, I'd put one there.
Yeah, why not?
And
They're
then
cute.
when people came over, is that a real Jeff Koons? Yeah. Hey,
Of
but
course it is.
I don't know.
It's
Anyway,
master.
so
Well, and Damien Hirst would be another artist to bring up.
that's a good one.
The embalming of the sharks and the formaldehyde
Oh,
and the weird stuff and
oh,
the crystal
piss
skull.
Christ. Yeah.
Yeah, there's Serrano there. Yep, there's another
Oh,
one.
that's not Damien Hirst?
No, that's Serrano.
Oh, I thought it
Andreas
was Damien
Serrano.
Hirst. Okay.
Super
Yeah.
controversial. I don't even know if I'd want to touch that with a 10-foot pole here.
No, I don't want to do that. No, that's fine.
But
You can look that up on your own, ladies and gentlemen.
if I were to put a bow on anything, though, I would just say education versus art, because that was another part of the topic that didn't come up. There's educational purposes to copying artwork.
Correct.
When you're a student in art school, they will send you to a museum and they will say, draw from the sculptures if you're in a figure drawing class.
And you and
And
I did that. We sat in academia in Florence and drew Michelangelo sculptures.
it was phenomenal.
It
It
was
was an
so cool.
amazing experience. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to share that as my artwork. I'll share it as my art experience. But I don't know if I'm going to put it on a gallery and slap the Dave Denner on it and then slap a price tag on it too. Don't underestimate the value of using visual aids and being inspired by masters and copying works as a means of getting better technically. But I agree with a comment you made earliest when it comes to making a work of art, and that's the translation from here to the paper. So whatever it is you're doing, I want you to consider the act of the transfer from your eyes to your mind to your paper.
How do you do this? Don't just do this. Get your brain involved. How do you do that? What's the
And
point?
I think that's where the artwork emerges. And I always say that too many people try and put this stigma on art that you have to have a certain level of education to be able to talk about it. You have to have a certain level of taste to know if it's good or not. So I have one rule when it comes to looking at art in my classes. My definition for good art is this: if you like it, then it's good. Yeah, I mean, that was a loaded cheeseburger for sure, but
Okay.
the struggle
Do it with a mask on. Do it with a Kylo Ren mask
do it
on.
with mask on?
Yeah.
All right, so pardon.
That's ridiculous.
Cheating, is it not? Who knows, but may the force be with you and everybody love everybody. Peace in the universe.
See ya.